friends, in the last video we have seen history of 8th standard, and in that video also we were on the first number chapter, that is how, when and where. In that we have seen about the dates, which dates important, and how do we periodize. We have seen James Mill. He has classified Indian history into three categories, and also Indian historians, they have also written Indian history, classified Indian history or periodized Indian history into three categories. That is, first is the ancient history, medieval history and the modern history. Before that, James Mill have written history in three types. That is, first is the Hindu time, Muslim time and the British time. This we have discussed already in the last video. Now see, we have uh, the point on the page number 4. On the page number 4 we have what is colonial. What is colonial? And one more point, that is how do we know. These 2 points we will discuss in this video. See, first, what is colonial? What is colonial? What is colonial rule? You know that colonial rule means that is the foreign people, they came in specific area or on specific area, and they control over there, they establish their power on that specific area. Means the native people are not functioning the government, native people are not doing the work of the government. Foreigner people, they came and they established their power there, their government over there, and this concept is known as colonial rule or colonial power. We know that in our country there are many foreigners come and they establish their own power. Dutch people came, and British also. You know that British people, Muslim people, they came and they established their own power in India. So India is a colonial ruled area. Of them, British actually British persons, British people, they came in India and their intention was not establish rule over India. But when that British people came for the business, for the trade, that time they observed there there are many kings over ruling over India. There is not central government in India, and these small kings, small kingdoms, they are fighting with each other. They are fighting with each other, and these British people thought that this is the good chance to establish power on India. And we know that many kings supported to them. It was the strategy of British people. They support to one king and fight with other kings, and in this way the battle had turned and there are many war have done, and in the Buxar battle, after the Buxar battle in 1764, that actual British rule start on India. So this is colonial rule, colonial power. Means foreigner people come in one area, and they establish their power. So this is the colonial rule, colonial power. We have the next topic, that is how do we know? How do we know history? How do we study the history? How we know the history? In our 6th standard or 7th standard, we have discussed the sources of the history. We have discussed already. Of them, first was the written sources. Written sources. Written sources, it is good source of study of the history. Means letters, their plans, agreements, commands, those things happen, and that things are written, events are written, laws are written. These are the written material. Means the written sources of study of the history. Then oral sources. Oral sources means orally, not written. Orally, one generation to next generation, these things are provided, and we know that is the oral sources of history. And last one, that is the material sources. That is the material sources, means the things which is available till now. For example, coins, forts, buildings. These all things comes in the these material things. This is also the good sources of study of the history. We have one point here, that is the administration records. Administration records. Administration records. These records gives us more information and the clear information of history. So these official records or the administrative records are the good sources of the history. Here we have one archives. One archives given here, that is established in 1920. Established in 1920 near of uh, Viceroy Palace. Near of Viceroy Palace. British persons, British government, British peoples have given importance to these records, official records, documents, and so that they have established, they have built a building near the Viceroy's palace known as the archives. And these archives, we know that this is the uh, building where all documents, government records are available. So these archives, we know that it is in the Delhi, built in the National Museum and the National Archives, were both located close to the Viceroy Palace. This location reflected the importance of these institutions had in the British imagination. These things established by the British, because British has given importance to the records. Those things those uh, uh, decision they have taken, those plan they have made, policies, agreements, investigation they have done. These all things are recorded, written and preserved in the office records, which that instructions, plans, policies, decision, agreement and investigations, surveys, these all records available in the government office. And these things, this written source or this material gives us the information. This material helps us to get the information or the factual information about the history. So these administration records very important while we are going to study of the history. So this now we have the second point, that is the survey. Survey, it is also second important things for the study of the history. The British believed that the country had to be properly known before it could be effectively administered. Before the establish a rule, before the started rule on any place or any area, British believe that we have to do survey over there. Survey, we have to know the geography, the soil, the flora and fauna, what is the climate there, which is the crops importance are there, what is the life of that people, this culture of that people. So these all things British people doing the survey included in that survey, and so that it is the important source. Survey is the important thing for the study. Here two examples are given us, that is in the soil quality, the flora and the fauna, the local histories and the cropping pattern. All these facts seen as necessary to know about the administration, the region. From the end of the 19th century, census operations were held every 10 years. Census started British people, British government. When that this census started by the British people late in the 19th century, and the period, the time of the census, that is the 10 years. Every after 10 years, this census British had done, and we know that this census all we are doing till now after 10 years. Census means counting people, how many people are living in specific area. This census are started by the British people. So these material are also the help while we are going to study of the history. Then we have third point, that is what official records do not tell. Official records tells us only those things British person have taken initiative. Those things British likes, their likes or the interests. Those things British people have taken the interest. Only these things are tales or these things preserved in the this record room or the record or the official records. For example, British was not interested in the life of the peasants, in the life of minor workers, in the life of tribal people or the common people, how they were thinking, how they were wishes, their life, how was their life. These things we cannot get from the official records. So there are some weaknesses in the administration records or the survey. The fact of common people, fact of the lower caste people, these are not available in the official records. So these things are also here. So these are the point clear. How do we know? From where do we know? This is the history from the administration records, from the survey, but also these things having the weakness. That is, the fact are not telling these official records. This was the lesson we have studied. We will again summary wise we will look of this lesson. How, when and where. This was the lesson. Very firstly we were discuss about how important are dates. Dates are important, and apart from the dates there are many things important. Everything's having not fixed date, but also these events, this happening also important. uh, Teach example we have seen, railways example we have seen, and which dates important, it is depend on the who is going to write the history. If the British person write the history, then those things are in favor of the British, these dates will be importance. If the Indian person writing the Indian history, that time those things are favor of Indian or India, these dates will be importance. We have seen. Then periodize of the history, James Smith, we have seen three classification: Hindu, Muslim and the British. This classification has done, but it is not good, it is not fact, it is not perfectly, because there apart from these religious, many people was living in India. So Indian person have written the or classify history into another three categories, that is ancient history, medieval history and the modern history. Colonial time, colonial rule. What is mean by colonial rule? We have seen, means foreigner person come here and they establish their power. How do we know? The sources of the history we have seen: written sources, oral sources and the material sources. And administration records means actually it is the written sources. Surveys important, but also official records not provide the fact. These things we have seen. In this way we have finished this lesson here. This was the lesson. You read the lesson again and again, you will get the idea of the lesson. Okay, thanks.